What's up everybody, I'm Greg, you're watching the Car Passion channel, and today we got another video in the VVT build series. I'm going to be stripping this engine down to the bare block and getting it ready for the machine shop. Now, I know I've told you guys this in previous videos, but I am not a professional, I'm not even a mechanic. I just like to throw together fast cars in my backyard and have fun making videos for you guys about it. So if some of you more experienced mechanics or engine builders out there see me making some kind of mistake along my build, please drop me a comment down below. If it's legit, if it's serious, I'll address it in the following video. Until then, I'm going to do my best to bring you the most accurate information that I can, and of course, do your research and do your homework before attempting anything you don't feel comfortable with. To get this started, I'm going to be removing all of the external accessories and things like the AC compressor bracket, power steering pump bracket, alternator bracket, motor mounts, everything that's kind of on the outside of the motor. I'm going to take it off. Now, before you even get started, what you should do is take 10 pictures of this thing at every different angle possible. One of those pictures could just absolutely save you. You figure out, you know, the order of something that goes on or where a certain bolt goes. So take pictures, and then as you get deeper into the motor, take more and more pictures as you take things apart, and you can reference those pictures later. When you take something like this off that has multiple bolts, don't just dump it all into a pile. Look at the length and see if they're all the same. If one of these bolts was longer, wherever you're storing these, you're going to want to label, say, long bolt, upper right hole or something like that, so you know when you put it back together where all the bolts go. In this case, they're all the same length, so I can just put them together. Bolt for this power steering pump bracket is blocked by this spacer right here. So what you can do is put a wrench on it like that and then hit the bracket down once all the other bolts are removed, and you can get that last one loose. Dipstick O-ring obviously is pretty nasty, and that's one of those things that you might forget to buy later to replace. So it's good to have something to write on while you're taking your motor apart and remind you of the little things that you might need to buy later. Don't lose your fuel rail spacers. The oil filter screws into here is the factory oil cooler found on the later Miata engines, and I'm just going to cap these lines. I'm not going to use it. I don't really think it's going to be that great to cool hot oil with 200-degree coolant. My strategy has always been to run an oil temperature gauge, and that will tell me if I need an oil cooler, and then at that point I can put a real legit one out in front of the intercooler. When you remove the filter, it'll reveal a 29mm nut, which you will need a deep socket for. definitely took some effort to get this off, but I did just have to undo the 410mm bolt on top, so it kind of feels like something's still bolted in, but you just give it a good tug and it kind of pops out. It's got a real tight seal with this oil O-ring here. Now I'm gonna take off the valve cover. I always try to crack the bolts loose in some kind of a cross pattern. I'm going to work on the front of the motor. I'll remove the harmonic balancer, water pump pulley, water neck, and all the front covers, and that'll give me access to the timing belt, tensioner, and idler pulley. The easiest way to remove the water pump pulley bolts is with an electric impact, but if you don't have one, you can use your water pump belt or alternator belt to wrap around the pulley and hold it real tight while you use a socket on these. To get the crank bolt out with a regular ratchet, typically you'll need a flywheel stopper or a piston stopper. I'm using an impact since I have it. Shout out to my girlfriend for letting me use her snap-on tools in these clutch situations. One thing to note, if you're ever not using an impact socket, when you put it on, don't hold your hand around it like this, because these non-impact sockets can explode with the impact forces, and you don't want that to happen in your hand. It's always a good idea to replace this if you're ever working with your crank, or if you ever do a 60K on your car. This key is like only a couple bucks, and it is pretty important to the precision of your timing. To remove the timing belt, just loosen the 14mm bolt on the tensioner and unhook the tensioner spring. Now I'm going to remove the cam gears, but first I have to lock the cams in place. Both of the cams have a hexagonal casting between the lobes. I'm going to place a crescent wrench on each one of those castings. Then lock the wrenches together with vice grips, and the cams won't be able to rotate. On any Miata engine 1990 through 2000, removing the intake cam gear is the same as the exhaust. On the VVT engines, you just have to remove this cover first. From what I've seen online, these T25s like to strip out, so it is possible it will happen. You might need either an easy out or a left-handed drill bit to get some of these out, and you'll just have to buy the little screws. They're probably like $1 each or something. But just be careful when you're getting them out. Make sure you have a real healthy T25 when you're removing those things. That'll help ensure that they don't strip. Oh boy. Alright, those things are really tight. Ooh, okay, that one wasn't so bad. Okay, one more. This is probably gonna be the one that strips. Alright, what we got here is a little bootleg power tool action. Let's see if we can't spin this thing out. Okay, so sometimes when you have limited tools, you gotta get creative. Since I got 2 of the screws out, what I'm gonna do is take this chisel and this hammer, and I'm gonna hit the cover right here and hope that the entire cover rotates and loosens this screw. I don't know if it's gonna work or not. You have no idea how happy I am that just worked. Now loosen the 17mm bolt inside the cam gear, and your mystical, magical VVT cam gear has been removed.
Rising with each beat of the music is bringing little flames in the fire that keeps burning. We're inviting the night in. Welcome, my heart so full, I'm devoting myself to the night. There's no motive, we're just listening.
Now I'm going to remove the camshafts, and the one thing that is super important when removing your cams is you have to loosen all the cap bolts in stages. And the reason is, if you were to loosen one cap at a time, by the time you get back here, these caps are still torqued down, these are fully loose, the valve springs are pushing up on the cam, you can bend or break your camshafts if you don't loosen these in stages. The next important thing about removing the cams is more so about putting them back in. These caps right here cannot be out of order when you put them back in. But you're in luck because Mazda makes it real easy by stamping a letter and a number on each cap to tell you where it goes. I2 would be the second cap on the intake cam. The reason it's so important is that these caps are not machined individually and then put into place. They're actually casted as part of the head, and then a giant drill bit basically goes through all of them to make a perfectly straight hole for the cam to go into. So each one of these caps might be a little bit different, you know, if you were to switch them around, and that'll make the cam not fit right, and you could chew up the cam, get shavings in your oil, bad stuff like that. So that's why it's just imperative to put these caps back on in order.
The music is bringing little flames in the fire that keeps burning. We're inviting the night in. Welcome, my heart so full, I'm devoting myself to the night. There's no motive, we're just listening, we're existing.
At this point you're left with your lifters, and if you have a 90 to 97 engine, they'll be hydraulic lifters. 99 to 05, they will be solid lifters, which is what I have here. I like to put the lifters also back into the same buckets that they came out of. So I just kind of wipe off the tops, and we'll go I1, I2, I3, I4 through 8. Now what I've done here is just label the shim, really, because the shim comes off of the lifter. But to take it a step further, I also label inside the lifter like that to make sure the lifter matches the bucket, the shim matches the lifter. Is it overkill? Maybe. Is it going to hurt anything? Absolutely not. Now I just have to remove the engine lift hooks, the cap over this rear cam, or if you have a cast, if you have an earlier 1.8, you'll have your cast to remove there, and the rear coolant housing. And then at that point, the head will actually be ready for the machine shop. The head bolts are right down in between the lifters. You'll need a 12-point, 12mm socket to remove them. You always want to loosen head bolts in small steps and in the proper torquing order. I don't know if this is from running just crazy rich or having oil in the combustion chambers from bad valve stem seals or bad PCV or something, but this motor is definitely not that healthy. Definitely not near as healthy as the 1.6 was. You guys saw the tops of the pistons, well, the 3 remaining pistons were pretty healthy when I took that motor apart. So now I'm going to remove the oil pan, and the easiest way to do it is just to flip the motor completely upside down, but somehow even if you drain the pan, oil still spills. I'm just going to go ahead and flip it on its side, kind of at an angle like this, and then remove it that way. All you got here is a bunch of 10mm bolts all around the pan. And don't forget about the 2 long ones at the back of the pan. You have this one and this one right here. you have a pre-2001 engine, this piece right here will just lift off right now. It's going to be kind of stuck because of the RTV, but there's nothing holding it in place. If you have a 2001 to 2005 engine like this one is, you have to remove these Torx bolts, which are E10 size, and this is actually called a main bearing support plate, and it actually helps keep the main bearings aligned during high stress times, which is awesome for high power builds. Next thing I'm gonna do here is just rotate the crank to get two of these connecting rods up top. If you're rebuilding your engine and you're using the same internals, it's super important to mark your rod caps, mark your rods, mark your pistons. You want everything to go into the same cylinder that it came out of. Since I'm not reusing any of this stuff, it doesn't really matter that it's marked or not. The main caps, same thing as the cams. They have to go back into the same spot and the same orientation they came off. Mazda actually did stamp each main cap with a number though, so you don't have to worry about marking it yourself. When you're ready to remove one of the rods, you want to put some vacuum tubing on the studs here, and that's going to prevent the studs on the rod from hitting the cylinder wall on the way out. This is you know, 25-cent insurance policy right here that you're not going to hit anything. And the same thing right here, it protects the studs from hitting the crankshaft journals there. Like, I know it's weird that I'm talking to a block of metal right here. I don't expect you to understand, but you just need to know that you don't have to worry about me, okay? The last thing you have to do before you pull the crankshaft out is get back here and pull off the rear main seal plate. Let's just remove the oil squirters from the block. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you take a complete Miata engine down to the bare block. This thing's getting ready for the machine shop, the head's getting ready for the machine shop, and the next time you see this block, it's going to be going back together. We're getting closer and closer with each and every video. I am so amped to complete this build. I hope you guys are getting amped for it. As always, if you learned something in this video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you thought down in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.
Back from the dead.